Are you looking for a brown sugar substitute that doesn't have an aftertaste or that cooling effect? Well, so am I. Today I'm going to be testing two and see if any of them will pass Paul's taste test. So if you'd like to see how this comes out, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel typically sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today it's one of my recipes, but I'm not showing you the recipe. I've already shown this recipe a while back for my Chewy oatmeal cookies, and if you haven't seen that, I will link it down in the description box, as well as put a little card up here. What I'm doing today is testing brown sugar replacements. As most of you know, I've been using Swerve throughout most of my time on this channel. But Paul, my partner, does have a little issue with the aftertaste. It does have that cooling, minty kind of aftertaste, and he is not a fan. And I told you in a previous video how I had found multi-purpose in the raw in place of the granulated sugar. I was using Swerve. Now I've switched off of that because the in the raw, and I'll include a picture here somewhere, does not give that aftertaste. But I did make some of these oatmeal cookies with the new sugar replacement, but I was using up the last of my Swerve brown sugar, and Paul still detected that aftertaste, that little burn in the back of your throat. He's not a fan. So I decided to go on the search for a replacement brown sugar that would not give that cooling aftertaste, you know, and have any other issues, hopefully. So I bought two on Amazon. I bought this So Nourished Gold Monk Fruit Erythritol blend. And erythritol is part of the problem, I believe, with the Swerve. But I was hoping that the blend with the monk fruit would maybe mitigate that to some extent. But as I read on some of the reviews, it has a rather funky aroma. When you first open the package, and even now it's fainter because it's been exposed to the air, but it kind of has almost like a fish sauce smell, which is not a pleasant smell. But I overlooked it, tasted it, and Paul tasted it too. And at first he didn't get the burning, and I didn't either, that cooling, burning feeling. But then it slowly hit. So I think the monk fruit did mitigate it a little bit. Just not enough because you could still tell it was there. The other one I'm trying is Bestie Sugar Replacement Monk Fruit and Allulose blend. And I opened that, it smells just like brown sugar. I was very impressed. Then I tasted it, again, tasted like brown sugar. Now the consistency of the So Nourished is definitely more like the consistency I would expect from brown sugar. The Bestie, on the other hand, is more like, I mean, it clumps together like brown sugar does, but it's softer. It doesn't clump as well. But honestly, I don't think that's a problem. I know there are other brown sugars that are actually more like a granulated sugar that has an amber color, and that's not what I'm looking for. Because brown sugar should add some moisture to the dish, whatever you're making, and granulated sugar or sugar replacements don't do that. So that's why I was looking for something more like the brown sugar. Now, what I've decided to do is make a batch of my oatmeal cookies, and I split it in half because I'm going to add one sweetener into one batch, one sweetener into the other batch, and then I'm going to make the cookies, and we will do a taste test to see if we still get that background cooling from the So Nourished, or if the Bestie is actually the Bestie. Now I did, just so you know, I have my sheet pans lined with parchment, and on the back of the parchment I have the name of whatever sugar I'm going to be using on that one. So again, I'm not showing you how to make these. I did show that in another video, so go check that out. But I am going to add in my sugar replacement for the brown sugar. I've already added in the replacement for the granulated sugar, and I am using the new one. So now I'm going to just mix this in. So just to make sure that there's no cross-contamination, I'm going to rinse off my whisk and mix this in. Okay, so now this one's going in. I still get a slightly, not as bad, more now I think it's more the cinnamon and the oatmeal cookies that's kind of showing through, but does still have a faint aroma. And this one just smells like sugar. All right, so let me get these cookies together, and then I'm going to portion them out onto the trays. All right, so I'm ready to portion these out, and I actually wish I did an overhead shot because this one with the So Nourished, the one with the erythritol, is very firm, like this dough should be. The one with the Bestie is a little more wet, and that was also the softer of the two, so that could be why. I'm sure they'll bake up fine, but anyways, we're going to start off. I'm going to dole out the So Nourished one on this pan. All right, so these are the So Nourished ones. I've patted them down to get them to a more cookie shape because they're not really going to flatten on their own. I'm going to throw these in the oven and then get started with the Besties. All right, so I'm hoping, yeah, it seems to have firmed up a little bit. I think the oatmeal may have absorbed some of the extra moisture while it was sitting here. So I may suggest, if you do use this one, if this works well, that you let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes and then portion it out. But I'm going to get these portioned out, flatten these, and I will be waiting for the other ones to come out of the oven before I put these in, because you do bake these one sheet at a time. So let me get these done and I'll be back. Now, one thing I will say is typically I have to dampen my hands to do this so that the dough doesn't stick, because the dough with the Bestie sweetener in it is more liquid for some reason. They both have the same amount of everything. I don't need to wet my hands to spread these out. All right, so those are ready to go in once the other ones come out, so I will be back. Okay, I am back, and we do have a verdict of sorts. These both are very tasty. This one is the one that was made with the erythritol, the, what is it, So Nourished. And this firm texture is what I was getting with Swerve. So I really enjoy the texture of this one. But you do get a slight mild cooling effect in the back of your throat. Not as pronounced as it was with Swerve. So I will give them the benefit of that. And I honestly didn't mind it. Paul noticed it right away and knew that this was the one made with erythritol. Now these made with the Bestie, this is the dough that was more wet than it should have been. And I'll have to do an entire batch and see if it still comes out the same way. I'm assuming it will. I don't know why it became more wet. But it also made the cookies a little darker and much softer. So these bend much more than these do. These are very firm, and I prefer this chewy texture. This one still has a nice texture and it's very tasty. And Paul would prefer this one. He cares more about not getting that erythritol aftertaste than the texture. If you've been watching this, you know that I'm a texture eater, so I really enjoy this nice chewy cookie, which is why I named them Chewy Oatmeal Cookies. But both of them I thought were really good. This one, the flavor is great. You don't get any aftertaste from the Bestie. The So Nourished, you do get a slight aftertaste, but I think because it's mixed with the monk fruit, you don't notice it as much, at least in the cookies. We did taste both of these directly from the package, and you could get more of a feeling in the back of your throat from the So Nourished because of the erythritol. Not as bad as it would have been with the Swerve, I don't think. But this one gave you none of that flavor, none of that feeling, and it really does have a nice flavor. So honestly, I could go with either one of these. If I'm making them for Paul, I would definitely go with the Bestie for no aftertaste. If I were doing it just for myself, I would probably use the So Nourished just because it did give me the texture that I like. And I didn't mind Swerve that much, and this is milder than Swerve. So I would do this for myself. I would do these for Paul, but either one of them I think is a great choice. It all depends on whether you can deal with the slight aftertaste or not. And for me, it is mild here, non-existent here. So I guess you have to pick your battles, taste over texture or texture over taste, or texture over aftertaste, I guess is more accurate to say. But they both worked great. As I said, this one, the cookies came out as I intended originally. This one, they are a bit softer, but if you don't mind the softer texture, that's a great option with no aftertaste. So I hope that you found this informative and helpful perhaps in your search for a brown sugar replacement. I am going to be looking into powdered sugar replacements so I can get rid of the last of my Swerve. I have a little bit of the Swerve confectioner sugar, but if I ever did a glaze or anything like that, the aftertaste would be way too pronounced. So I am looking for replacements for powdered sugar, and I've seen a few. If you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments, and I will probably do another taste test for powdered sugars at some point. But if you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate you doing the usual thumbs up, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video such as this one, which is not my normal video. And also check out the description box for my blog, my Amazon storefront, my social media, both the Instagram and 2 Facebook groups. So go check those out. I think I'm going to go have a cookie or two. I guess I'll give Paul one of his. So until next time, bye.